I'm excited, but also just a little bit nervous because I just spent $80 on this action camera. And before I even open the box, listen to this. Can you hear that unsettling rattling sound coming from inside? Yeah, that sound alone is enough to ruin your peace of mind. That is not the sound you want to hear from something with a lens. Now, I don't want to jump to conclusions, but it sounds like something is loose, something is broken, or someone already had fun with it before me. But before we open this mystery package, let me show you the real reason I bought this camera in the first place. For the longest time, my FPV footage has been, let's just say, ruined by one thing: vibrations. Not small vibrations, I'm talking shaky footage, unstable video, borderline earthquake simulation. And trust me, I've tried everything. Tweaks, adjustments, rebuilding setups. At this point, what you're seeing in this clip, that's the absolute best I could get to no vibrations. Now you might be thinking, why not just use a gimbal? Great question. Simple answer, I crash a lot. And a gimbal in my setup, that thing would retire after one crash. So instead of fighting reality, I decided to try something else. An action camera with stabilization. And trust me, before this video ends, there's a very high chance I'll crash again. Alright, let's finally open this. Wait, why is there tape here? No, seriously, why is there tape all over this box? This doesn't look factory sealed. This box looks like it's been opened, inspected, emotionally damaged, then it was sealed back as if nothing had happened. First impression, not great at all. And that's already a bad start. Here it is, the SJCam C110 Plus budget camera, $80. Let's open it. Yeah, something is very wrong. The lens is exposed. No protective film, no cover, just bad vibes. And wait, why is there white powder on it? At this point, I'm not unboxing anymore. I'm conducting an investigation. Let's be real, someone opened this before me, and my best guess? Customs. Probably because I've been ordering from AliExpress as if I were building a spaceship. So yeah, I might be on some kind of suspicious electronics guy watch list now. Let's look at what else is inside. Setting my trust issues aside for a second, I turn my attention to the waterproofing case that came in the box. First impression? Yeah, it's already scratched. Which probably means the customs guys said, let's test this real quick. And look at this. A film like this is what I expected to see on the camera's lens. Amazing teamwork. Now, jokes aside, I'll give credit where it's due. The case actually feels solid. Like this thing could probably survive my driving, which says a lot about my driving skills. It looks well built, sturdy, and definitely capable of keeping water out. The only problem is, I'm not even sure if I'll use it. Now my attention shifts to the smaller box. And here is the manual, which, let's be honest, nobody reads. And these stickers, do people actually use these? Or are they just there to fill the box? Anyway, I'm here for one thing, the mounts. From what I saw online, this camera is supposed to come with a comprehensive collection of mounting options. So let's open it. Yeah, confirmed. Someone was definitely here before me. Everything is already unpacked. Not even slightly organized, just chaos. Like someone opened it, explored everything, and then said, yeah, this is fine, and closed it. I mean, if you're going to open it, at least pretend it's new when you put it back. This is such a bad start. At this point, my expectations are already on life support. I'm honestly starting to suspect this camera might not even work properly. but we'll find out soon enough. Now, looking at these mounts, there are quite a few, but realistically, I'm only interested in one. The rest, probably not useful for my setup. This one right here looks promising. I think this is what I'm going to use, but knowing my luck, that could change very quickly. Let me try fitting the camera into it and see how secure it actually is. Because with the way I drive, secure is not optional, it's survival. The real question is this thing actually going to protect the lens? Because right now, that lens is looking very exposed, very vulnerable, very one crash away from disaster. And now I'm just standing here with a million questions. Is it going to work? Is it going to survive? Did I just waste $80? I'm honestly delaying turning it on at this point, even pretending to clean the lens just to buy time. But to be fair, whoever opened this before me at least didn't scratch it, so thank you, mysterious stranger. I still wish I were the first one to unbox it though. That moment has been stolen from me. Anyway, this is probably what the final setup will look like. I have a strong feeling this mount is the one I'll end up using to secure the camera to my RC car. The only problem? I plan to mount it on a 1/10 scale RC car, and this camera is way bigger than I expected. So yeah, mounting this is going to be interesting. But hey, this is my first time doing this, so I'm treating it as a learning experience. Alright, moment of truth. Let's turn it on. Okay, good news, it's turning on. Bad news? Why is it blinking like that? Yeah, this is exactly why I should have read the manual first. Let me check. So the rapid blinking means it needs charging. That makes sense. So after all that stress, it just needed power. Alright, fine, I'll follow the manual this time. A few days later, I finally managed to mount the camera. Did I record that process? No, because I had no idea what I was doing. Also, I already crashed. Yeah, during that early test. Too much excitement, not enough brain. Result? Both front pivot blocks are broken. But hey, at least the camera was recording. So now I have high quality evidence of my mistakes. And let me show you a teaser. Before I reveal how I ended up mounting the action camera, please promise not to criticize me because I think this might not be the final look. So here's what happened. When I bought this camera, I was 100% convinced I could mount it horizontally. Simple, clean, logical. Then after placing the order, I found out it only records vertically. Yeah, that was a fun discovery. So now I had to improvise, and this is how I ended up with this very interesting mounting position you're seeing right now. To deal with vibrations, the main enemy in my life right now, I added foam padding around the camera. I did not plan to make it look this ugly. This is survival engineering. Because let's be clear, I did not buy this camera for video quality. I bought it to fight vibrations. That's it. Vibrations have been ruining my footage for the longest time, and I've had enough. Now, let me show you the next problem I created. Because of course, there's another problem. By mounting this action camera, I managed to block the FPV camera. Incredible engineering. From this angle, you can clearly see it. The action camera is just sitting there like, I can't see what is in front of this new camera blocking my view. As you can see, it's blocking the FPV camera, but don't worry, I will fix this by the end of this video. This will be my problem for the next few days. Alright, let's talk performance. First test, 1080p at 120 frames per second. Sounds amazing, right? Wrong. The quality, not great. And more importantly, the vibrations are still there. Which is very disappointing because eliminating vibrations was the whole reason I bought this camera. The only reason I even started with 1080p at 120 frames per second is that I thought that's the only way to get the full 170-degree field of view. Turns out, I was wrong. And now, here comes the crash. I got too excited, too much throttle, and poof, I crashed, early in the morning. At that moment, I was just standing there thinking, did I wake up this early for this? So here's what actually happened. I had the throttle too high. The car did a wheelie, front wheels off the ground, then I hit the brakes. And nothing happened. Because surprise, if your front wheels are in the air, your brakes are basically less effective. And that's how I crashed. Now let me show you the damage. Both front pivot blocks, gone, completely broken. So yeah, that hurt a little. Fast forward about 10 days later, replacement parts finally arrived. And here's something interesting I realized. When I first bought this RC car, I upgraded some parts to metal, but left others stock. So now, whenever I crash, the weaker parts take all the damage, which is actually useful because now I know exactly what needs upgrading next. So in a weird way, crashing is part of the upgrade process. Oh, and I forgot one more thing. That same crash somehow bent one of the rear pivot blocks. Don't even ask me how, because I don't remember reversing and hitting anything that hard, but somehow it bent. At this point, I've just accepted that this RC car has its own personality. The good thing is, replacement parts come for both the front and rear. So we move on. Alright, so for the next test, I switch things up and set the camera to 4K at 30 frames per second. Now, quick reality check. That's the max frames per second this camera can do in 4K. No 60 frames per second, no 120 frames per second, just 30 frames per second. Yeah, I know. For a lot of people, that's already a deal breaker, but I kept going anyway. Now you might notice that the view looks a bit narrower compared to the 1080 setting, and at first I was confused too. Turns out, it was my fault. I had the anti-distortion setting turned on, and what that does is crop into the image. So basically, I accidentally zoomed in and then sat there wondering why things looked different. But here's the important part. Once I switched to 4K 30 frames per second, the vibrations dropped a lot, like immediately noticeable. Compared to 1080p at 120 frames per second, night and day difference. Even when I tried 1080p at 60 frames per second or 30 frames per second, the view angle was worse and the vibrations were still there. And then I discovered something very important. The 6-axis stabilization only works at 4K 30 frames per second. Anything below that, you lose it completely. But at 4K 30 frames per second, it actually does a really good job. Now the reason I tested this on this rough surface is very intentional. This right here, this is my enemy territory. This is where my FPV footage usually suffers the most from vibrations. So if the camera performs well here, then it's actually doing something. And honestly, it handled it really well. Like, surprisingly well. Now of course, it's not perfect. The sensor in this camera is quite small, so how does it handle sun exposure? Yeah, not great. But let's not forget the mission here. I didn't buy this camera for cinematic beauty. I bought it to kill vibrations. And finally, that problem is solved. Now from my side, the FPV feed still has vibrations. But here's something interesting. When you're actually driving, you don't really notice them that much. You can see them, yes, but your brain is focused on don't crash, don't crash, don't crash. So the vibrations aren't a big deal while driving. The real problem shows up later, when you watch the footage. Because that's when people see the analog FPV quality plus the vibrations. And that combo, yeah, not very appealing. But now that I've seen what this action camera can do, it's time to stop playing around and fix everything properly. So after a couple of days of adjustments, let me show you what I came up with. This right here is my projects in progress box. And immediately you can see one major change. The FPV camera is now higher. And this wasn't just about fixing the blocked view. it was also about reducing interference. Because something I learned is that when action cameras and FPV cameras sit too close together, they start interfering with each other. So yeah, distance matters. Also, before you ask, ignore that device at the front. That's for another project. For now, we stay focused. Now I don't have a 3D printer, so I had to go full DIY engineer mode. Let's just say this mounting method is primitive. But here's the important part. The camera is secure from the inside. That small black piece at the center, that's doing all the heavy lifting. Now since this thing is permanently mounted, I still need to charge it, right? So I found a way to secure a USB cable to the action cam. After every run, I just plug it in and recharge. Simple, effective, no stress. As for accessing footage, I can use the built-in Wi-Fi or the Type-C cable. So far, I've been using built-in Wi-Fi because honestly, it's fast enough. Unless the files are huge, then yeah, laptop time. Now let's talk about the FPV camera. This time, I raised it higher. And surprisingly, I didn't need all those messy cables from before. All I used this time, 4 copper wires. Did I need copper? No, but it matched the color of the car, so obviously that's a valid engineering decision. But more importantly, this time I made sure everything was tight, because previously that setup was a mess. The FPV camera was basically sitting there like, I hope I don't fall today. Now, it's solid, and honestly, what I've realized through all this is, the more I customize this RC car, the better I get at mounting everything. Now from the front view, you can clearly see the difference. Raising the FPV camera improved the viewing angle a lot. And remember, this is the camera I actually use to drive, not the action camera. The action camera is just there to record better footage. Because let's be honest, the FPV camera quality is not great. And before this adjustment, I had some very close calls, like almost getting run over by actual cars. Because when I accelerated, the front of the RC car would lift slightly. Not a full wheelie, but just enough to completely block my view. And when you can't see, you're basically guessing your way through obstacles. So yeah, that's why I raised it higher. Safer, smarter, less near-death experience. Now if you take a closer look, this right here is the mount doing all the hard work. And honestly, it's holding on for dear life. The camera is secured really well at the base, but I didn't trust it, not even a little. So I reinforced the top as well. Because let's be honest, crashes are not a possibility, they are a guarantee. Now this lower part here, that's the fastener I used to tighten everything. But I had to cut off 2 parts of it. Why? Because when I tried closing the RC shell, it was like, yeah, that's not happening. So I chalked them off. Clean, no regrets. Then I replaced this fastener with this rubber, and surprisingly, the rubber works better. Sometimes the temporary solution becomes the final boss. Now this cap here is meant to fully seal the camera because the case is designed for waterproofing. But in my case, I don't care about water. I care about one thing: protect the lens at all costs. Because one small stone, one tiny rock from those front wheels, and boom, the lens is gone. Career finished. So yeah, I stuck with the waterproof case. Is it perfect? No. Does it slightly affect video quality? Yes. But protection greater than perfection. Always. Now moving on to the final settings. I set the camera to 4K 30 frames per second again, but this time, distortion correction is off. Because when it's on, the camera crops in, and suddenly the wide angle view becomes zoom meeting mode, and we don't want that. With it off, the footage looks way better, nice and wide, clean. But let's be real for a second. SG Cam, couldn't you give us 60 frames per second, just a little 60 frames per second as a treat? Because at 30 frames per second, when the car is moving fast, you don't get that smooth buttery motion. But I'm willing to forgive that, because remember the mission, kill vibrations. And in that department, this camera actually delivers. So overall, I'm giving it a 6.5 out of 10. And honestly, most of that score comes from the 6-axis stabilization. That thing is doing its work. Now let me talk about something important. At first, I tried placing the FPV camera in a different position, and it was a disaster. Turns out, my FPV camera only has a 131.6 degree view angle, which is not great. That's why I have it placed way behind the car. But this action camera, 170 degrees wide angle. That's a huge difference. Now I can place it in the center and still see both front wheels. And trust me, seeing both wheels is everything in FPV driving. No wheels in view, you're guessing, you're gambling, you're basically driving on bad vibes. But with both wheels visible, you can actually maneuver properly, especially in tight spaces with obstacles. So yeah, that part is a big win. Now everything was working, tests were successful, camera mounted, life was good. So I went inside, feeling proud, feeling accomplished, feeling like an engineer. So it was time to go and pick the RC. I placed the transmitter on the dining table and forgot one very important detail. I have a son, and he loves RC cars. So as I'm walking towards the RC car, just a few steps away, the RC car suddenly goes full send mode, straight into the wall. Boom! I froze. I looked at it upside down and immediately thought, yeah, it's over. Camera scratched, FPV destroyed, dreams gone. The impact was loud, like emotionally loud. My knees almost gave up on me. After all that work, this is how it ends? And the funniest part, my son is still there like, more speed, full throttle, 100%. And guess what? I was the one who set it to 100%. So yeah, I can't even blame him. This is entirely my fault. But then, I checked the car, and nothing. No scratches, no damage, everything is perfect. I was like, wait, what? Those copper wires, they held. The mounts, solid. The camera, safe. Everything survived. Except one thing. The front CVD drive shaft. Yeah, that one sacrificed itself for the team. And honestly, considering that impact, that's a fair trade. Because if that car had more distance, at full throttle, yeah, we would not be having this conversation right now. Now, I already know some of you are sitting there like, but what about low light? You didn't test it at night. Relax, I got you. Before you even type that comment, I've already been there. So here's the truth. Right out of the box, it honestly feels like the people who made this camera were like, yeah, nobody is using this in the dark anyway, because low light performance, let's just say it's not winning any awards. But credit where credit is due. The 6-axis stabilization still works, even in the dark. So at least your shaky footage will now be smooth, but dark. Now let me show you what my FPV camera sees at night. And honestly, it actually does a pretty solid job. Which makes sense because this camera was actually designed for the dark, unlike the other one, clearly. So yeah, for night driving, the FPV camera is more reliable. Oh, and for those asking, I'm using the Cadex Geza FPV camera. If you're interested in obtaining one, a link is provided below. Because this one, it actually understood the assignment. Now from the next video, I'm upgrading the experience. You'll see FPV footage in the corner, action camera footage full view. So you can compare both perspectives and really see the difference. And just to be clear, I'm not saying this camera beats DJI Insta360, GoPro. Relax. This whole project was about one thing: building a budget FPV RC car. And honestly, mission accomplished. So yeah, if you made it this far, thank you, seriously. I hope this was helpful, educational, and at least a little bit entertaining. And maybe, just maybe, it inspires you to get into FPV RC. Not just RC cars, FPV RC driving, because that's where the real fun is. Alright, I'll see you in the next one.